All right, here we are. I believe we are live. I have this mic that I was gonna set up with because it's a great mic, but there was something wrong with it for a long time. Anyway, I'm digressing. There was something wrong with this mic, and my brother fixed it on Thanksgiving because he can fix anything. And then there was an issue with the USB, and I can't find a USB cord that I can plug it in with for the life of me. So that's what I was just up to. I appreciate you guys for being here. This is PossibiliTV Live, and I'm just refreshing this screen over here because I'm going to share this in my Facebook group, Thriving in Business and Love, because what is more important than business and love? I don't know. Health is important. All right, so I am sharing this. Bear with me. If anybody is here, then please give me a shout. I'm not looking at the screen. And today we're going to be talking about, hold on a second, let me just share in a group. Today we're going to be talking about, this is something I'm really excited to talk about because I've thought about it a lot, but I haven't actually articulated or said it. And, I have a lot of thoughts. I have a lot of thoughts in my head. This is something I have hesitated to speak about because it's kind of weird. It's really weird. It's not necessarily coherent. Join me live. Okay. And what I'm talking about, what I'm going to be speaking about, and I actually wrote out some notes. Here are my notes, which are really not that impressive, but there they are. Couples therapy with you and the universe, and seven keys that the universe would want you to know as a creative entrepreneur, if it was your therapist. Okay. And I guess the reason why I'm putting it from this angle is because it had helped me. Some of these insights have really helped me back when I was kind of struggling with the whole online thing. So I went online in 2013, kind of, not really. I mean, not really. I didn't even try. Nothing happened as a result. But I did have a pretty robust business at the time. If somebody's watching, give me a shout if you're here. And then in 2014, I was like, I'm going online, and everything is going to be so easy. And honestly, it wasn't, and it hadn't been for quite a while. And so the reason why I'm sharing this is because one thing I know that I do well is couples therapy. And it wasn't always the case. I put in a lot of training, a lot of effort, a lot of work to understand, relationships, how they work, how to really work with two people to kind of get them to connect. And, sorry, I just heard something weird. And when I'm sitting with a couple, this is not to say like, oh, I'm so great, but when I'm sitting with a couple who are at their wits' end with each other, that maybe, want to get divorced, that are just like, they're just in so much agony, there's so much distress, it's so difficult. I can see a path for them that, not because I'm special or anything, but because I've really put my work in, I can see a path for them, and because I understand how relationships work, and I understand, emotions, human emotions. I'm an emotionally focused couples therapist by training. That by this kind of path and understanding that I have enables me to really kind of see things from a much different vantage point than the couple that are distressed. Now, I'm using this not to kind of talk about couples therapy, but to use it as a metaphor, an analogy, just because it's a vantage point that I have that I feel like has helped me look at myself in a different way. Now, not in terms of relationship issues. Well, maybe relationship issues with the universe, okay? And that's what I want to talk to you about, because I know it's kind of weird and whatever, but let's just bear with me here, okay? I thought that to get my online business off the ground, it was going to be really, really easy. I thought, I've got credentials, I'm smart, I've already been, working with, at the time, I mean, I had been doing therapy, not licensed necessarily, but just about for a decade at the time, over a decade really. So I knew what I was doing, but the whole online thing was like, whatever, right? It's a different animal. So what what I needed was some of the same things that that couples need when they're really at their wits' end with each other. And so I want to talk about couples therapy with the universe. Things, keys that the universe wants you to know if you're a creative entrepreneur. And I'm saying creative entrepreneur because you're doing it your way. You want to, it's not just that you're going to buy buy a store and start selling stuff from it. Like maybe that's the case with that, but I don't really know that. I know about a personal branded kind of business that is about doing things your way. Now, this is also different than, setting up shop as a shrink and having people come to you. It's different, right? Because it's, you're not selling on some level you are, but you're not selling your therapy services on your personality so much. Ultimately, yes, that's kind of part of it, but if you're a creative entrepreneur, anyway, that's what I'm here to talk about. So, all right. So I've drawn the comparison between how I look at couples, and how I see the universe maybe looking at me, and how I feel like the universe is looking at you. Okay. And that's what we're going to talk about. So one thing to think about is what makes for the best outcomes in couples therapy. Now, this is going right into the research. Like, how do I know if a couple is going to make it through? I can talk to you about my experience. They have a good relationship with me. They trust me. This is something that I, obviously work to achieve as well. And we're going to translate this to you in your business, I promise. Okay. There's a shared commitment of purpose. There's a commitment there, right? They both are in it to win it. And this is an interesting piece from the research that, the kind of work that it's emotionally focused work, and the kind of, some of the research points to in heterosexual relationships. A lot of the research is done on heterosexual, sort of middle class, white couples. Okay. That's just where a lot of the research looks at, but this stuff is pretty much universal. But in the heterosexual couples that they've studied, one of the biggest predictors of outcome, positive outcome in couples therapy, is that the female has faith in her partner. Okay. And so how does this apply to you having the best possible relationship with the universe, going into this work together, this life together, right, that we're all in? Those three keys, right? Okay, have a good relationship with it. That's pretty much, meaning the universe seeing it. I know it's a little bit twisted because I'm saying the universe as your therapist and you're in couples therapy with the universe. This is a total ethical violation, by the way. You can't have, you can't be in a relationship, have a romantic relationship. Obviously, you don't have a romantic relationship with the universe, but you are in love, right, with the universe, and have that be your therapist as well. See, this is why I get off the deep end and I don't talk about this stuff, because it's all twisted. But bear with me. You have a good relationship with it, and yeah, why are you in couples therapy with it? But bear with me. There's a shared commitment of purpose, okay? You both want the same thing. And last, you have faith in it, okay? So I'm going to just kind of apply this to 7 things that the universe wants you to know as a creative entrepreneur, okay? To have your best, I don't know if the universe really wants you to know this or not, but this is how I feel that the universe would want you to know. If you want to have your best possible outcomes, right? If you want to feel totally on purpose and totally successful, and create the kind of business that you dreamed of, which I honestly, I've done that. And now obviously I'm dreaming bigger. I'm not satisfied. I want more, right? But to be able to, my son is about to turn 4, and to be able to, the first year he was alive, I'll just share, I was working, I did a lot of nights. I worked a lot at night. I saw couples in the city, and, I was not employed by anybody but myself, and it was fine. I made a lot of money. I did great work, but I was working at night. My husband was putting him to sleep most of the time, and I wasn't seeing him a lot, and we would kind of have these opposite schedules. So now to be able to kind of literally sit in this office in my home and talk to you about this, and have coaching clients virtually while also holding, being able to see people in person as a therapist. It's bliss. I swear to you, it's so cool. I love what I do. And so this is what I'm going to share with you, some things that have really helped me get to this point. Now, again, I'm not saying like I've got it all figured out, because it's a process for all of us. And there are goals that I have not yet attained as well. So anyway, so here are the 7 Ks. The first is to really believe in a benevolent universe. All right. And look, I've gone from skeptical to like being totally a believer. You can too, even if you don't believe. Just commit to giving it a shot, to believing in a benevolent universe, to believing that, there are, how can you deny that there are forces greater than you out there that can help you with whatever? So, I'm not as like, steeped in some of the stuff out there, like, how to harness the power of the moon and all the rest, but there are forces out there at work that are there for you to utilize in your favor. There's a great book called Leveraging the Universe by Florence Mary Schivel, something like that. I don't even know. You can tell I haven't read it in a long time, but just believe in the fact that the universe is a benevolent, the universe is benevolent. Okay, so that's the first key. Believe that it wants you to realize your goals. It wants you to feel good. It wants you to, live your purpose, right? Whatever that means to you. Okay, we could go on about that. And when you can really, if you don't believe in a benevolent universe, if you don't even allow yourself sort of like, okay, I'm just going to entertain this. I'm going to entertain this belief in it. You're just setting yourself up for failure, right? I mean, if everything, like it's just you against the world, and that's not easy. Okay. So recognize that the universe has your support. Okay. There's a great quote. Good. I can't say, why did I even set myself up to say this? Because I can never say his name. What is it? It's like the moment you commit, the universe will conspire in your favor. So the second thing that the universe wants you to know, or at least that I want you to know, or at least believe, is that the universe is committed to you, right? You have to commit to it as well. If you can commit together, right? If you can commit, again, this is like couples therapy, right? You can commit and you have a shared sense of purpose, right? And it wants to support you. If you can commit to that, right? And really have that, recognize that it's committed to you as well. You're going to be like, it takes off these existential layers of fear and anxiety that are ultimately necessary for your best foundation, okay? For you to fly higher and soar even further, okay? So that's the second thing I want you to know. The third thing is to have faith, right? Have faith. I know all of this sounds related, but these are really important pieces. Faith is going to give you the tenacity that you need to kind of like stay in the game. What's the statistic? How many businesses fail within the first however many years, right? Don't be a statistic. Have faith, right? Believe in yourself. Have faith. Believe in the universe. One of this, just to kind of refresh on what we were saying before, one of the predictors of couples therapy success, emotionally focused couples therapy success. Now, emotionally focused couples therapy is the best kind of therapy there is. And one of the best predictors of that is the one partner's faith in the other partner. Okay. So have faith. Okay. Have faith. And then the fourth thing that, all of the most successful people do, all of the most successful couples that I've worked with do, successful clients, successful people in general, and I know you know this, but I'm just going to say it anyway, to keep showing up, right? To just keep showing up. Stay in the room, right? There are like people will be like, I don't really feel like it. I really didn't want to come in this week. We didn't really want to come in this week, but then we have like a breakthrough session, okay? This is true. If you have to honor your commitment to yourself, okay? And it's funny because it's almost like when you have a coach or a therapist or a personal trainer or an insert the blank, somebody who's helping you stay on your task, it becomes easier to show up and do the work because you are beholden to them, right? If you can't keep your commitment to yourself, get somebody to keep a commitment to hold you accountable. It's just really important to keep showing up, right? And so, a lot of times, when I'm finishing up with working with a couple, it's like part of their work is to just keep having the conversations. If you have to put it on the calendar and designate a time and space for it, so be it. Do it. Keep having the conversations. Keep talking. Keep showing up for each other, or else the old pattern. I mean, I don't think it'll have necessarily. Well, depending on what it is, but you want to prevent things from not being said. You want to have room to constantly clear stuff out, and it's true for you and your business as well, to kind of just stay in the game. Stay in the game, even if you don't want to, right? So that's the fourth thing. All right, the fifth key, and this is absolutely unique, I think, it's not unique, perfectly unique to emotionally focused couples therapy, but it's really one of the most important parts of it, which is emotional awareness and honesty. Okay. Now I'm going to show you something. We have different layers of emotion. Okay. There are surface emotions that we can all be sort of connected to at any time, but there's multiple layers. I know I talk about this a lot, but it's really important to know yourself and your emotional layers. And if you need help with that, then I invite you to slow down and practice mindfulness and really connect to yourself. Emotional awareness and honesty is ultimately what will help you create a better connection to your partner, right? If you're feeling angry all the time, then there's probably something more underneath the surface, right? Same goes with your business, your relationship to your business and your relationship to the universe as a whole. The key is to get really honest with yourself and to really connect to yourself, attune to yourself, right? And this is sometimes a lot easier said than done. We need help with this sometimes. We are emotional creatures, and emotions are social communicators and drivers and motivators, and sometimes we need help from other people to kind of get in there and help us connect to our own. Okay. So that's really important, to understand yourself emotionally so that you can kind of let the universe know, here's where I'm at. And I mean, look, I'm no law of attraction guru, but it's all about the emotion, right? What you give off is what you get back, and what we all are after is to feel good. So recognize, right? Your emotions are really the guidance system that you have that tells you what's what. Okay. Napoleon Hill wrote about, Think and Grow Rich, and everybody says, thoughts become things, thoughts become things, thoughts become things. But the emotions are really so important. It's about the emotions. It's about, if you talk about your vibration and all the rest, it's really not so much about your thoughts. Now, obviously they're connected, and what you feel influence how you think, and how you think influence how you feel, right? But it's important to really not leave out that emotional aspect of things, because it is just so much of everything. So pay attention to how you feel, and be honest about that. All right. Now, many of us have been taught to kind of squelch those negative emotions, or not pay attention to them, or shove them under the rug, and that just sets you up in trouble. And I can guarantee that. What else do I have? Okay, the sixth thing. Okay, this is actually pretty good. Understand your humanness. And ultimately, this kind of connects to the emotional part of things, because we're talking about what sets us up for many of the dangerous negative emotions, negative emotional spirals that people can get into. So I'll just share with you with a couple, for example. One partner may be angry, pushing the other partner away, and the more the other person gets pushed away. I'm not gonna get into this. Sorry, I just had a weird blip of sound from my phone because somebody called me apparently, but it made a weird sound. I don't know if you heard that. I'm doing this from my desktop, or my laptop. It's awesome. OBS, if you want to do lives from your computer. Pretty cool. I don't like, holding up a phone, or adjusting it just so, or whatever. All right. What was I saying? Oh, yes. So couples get into trouble with each other because they set themselves up in these cycles of escalating negative emotions. And you can do that with the universe as well, right? something happens. Maybe you start off the day and you spill your coffee and you're like, oh, what a shitty day, right? And then you get what you see and you pay attention to it, becomes this negative spiral. So the reason why I'm saying this is because a lot of the times our negative surface reactions are symptoms or reactions to much bigger underlying primal fears. So in couples therapy and working with couples, it's usually about the fear of separation, disconnection, right? That's how one person is feeling. Underneath, it usually stems from a fear of abandonment or rejection. I'm going to be left alone, and I freak out because we are social creatures wired to connect. And there's so much emphasis that's on, I know I'm sharing a lot here, and I've said this all before, but it's really important to recognize that a lot of the times, a lot of emotional weight gets placed on your relationship with your significant other, right? Can be the universe. And when we're disconnected, when we feel that disconnect, it's kind of tantamount to feeling like we're disconnected from all of humanity and therefore dead, right? It's like sets up a primal fear response in our brain and all kinds of terrible things happen. And we kind of get into a rigid, angry, not creative, not good for anybody kind of state, okay? If we're not aware of what's happening. So we have to be aware so that we can hack these biological systems that sort of set us up immediately for, for trouble, right? And I'm not saying you can sort of outsmart your need to connect because you can't. But what I am saying is that you can be aware of when you might be feeling that that's primal sense of panic, because really you're not alone, okay? So anyway, when I work with a couple, this framework is really helpful for me to kind of help show them, okay, obviously I have to discover it for each person because it's not something that we apply, it's something that we kind of extract from somebody, but the fears of abandonment and rejection are the ones that come up the most and start the spiral of escalating negative emotions. So what does this mean about you in the universe? So I thought to myself, oh, what are our primal fears as humans, right? And I know that, isolation is definitely one of them. And rightly so. I mean, loneliness is lethal. All the studies in the world, but many studies show that, loneliness is more dangerous than smoking or hypertension or obesity. Loneliness is really, really bad for you because we're not meant to be alone. The worst kind of, I'm going to try to stay focused. So I did some research and like literally 5 minutes of Google search, but I found some compelling fears that I think we should all be aware of, so that when you understand, that you're basically just a human and we have our emotions are directly linked up to our biology. So interestingly enough, when you have hurt social feelings, it registers in the same spot of your brain, the anterior cingulate, where physical pain hurts, right? So it's interesting because we overcomplicate things. We like to think that we're special, like if I were to like break my arm, like I wouldn't question what the physician had to, maybe I would, but if it was a pretty standard, now the doorbell is ringing. Who's here? My beloved significant other is, my husband's getting the door. That's distracting. Okay. But when we break our arm or something like that, it's like, okay, well, the bone needs to be relocated, right? Now with emotions, it gets a little bit tricky because they're a lot more elusive. We don't necessarily see them as easily. But where was I going? Gosh, I'm so sorry. Oh yeah, we all have similar tendencies as humans, right? So in times of distress, there are a limited number of things we can do. We can turn our emotions up and get kind of flooded with them, or we can sort of turn them down. This is not something we consciously do necessarily. But we have the same, as humans, we have the same kind of basic primal fears. So obviously that isolation is one that I talked about. And I was saying I did a little quick couple-minute research. There are some others as well. One of them is extinction. We don't want to die as a species. We don't want to be extinct. We want to sort of live on. That's a big fear. So, when you're up against a kind of like scary, possibly lethal situation, like the fear of heights, for example, is one that, is a commonly shared fear. Not everybody has it, but, if you stand up somewhere really, really high and you look over the edge, you're going to maybe have a sensation of like, ah, right? Because you don't want to die. It's sort of to protect you, but it's also because you don't want, to be extinct. So that's one of them, fear of extinction. So I want you to ask yourself, if you're feeling stuck as a creative entrepreneur ever, right? Ask yourself, get really emotionally honest with yourself and follow it back and find out what are any of these primal fears. Can you identify with any of them? So that's one of them, extinction. Another one is mutilation, right? We don't want to have, we don't want to be dismembered. That's not good. I mean, not only would that hurt, not only could it lead to death, but it's, we don't want like something coming into us and like, like bugs and things like that. That's a pretty understandable fear. Gonna have some water. We don't want our boundaries being crossed, right? Understandably. The third fear that I saw was lack of autonomy. And this can bring up a lot of issues around, we so desperately want to be connected, but we also can be scared of intimacy because we don't want to be committed, right? So that's another key to look at. Feeling of being trapped. I mean, you see claustrophobia a lot. Really good protocol to help with some of these fears and to unlock these energetic patterns that are stuck inside of you is emotional freedom technique, which is the tapping, I could talk about that as well, but I'm going to skip that for now. The fourth fear that I found was separation. So we could call that isolation. We could call that loneliness, the separation from the whole. And my whole shtick is connection, right? And I think that when we are connected, anything is possible. So that's the fourth fear. And the last fear that I found is ego death. And I think that ultimately is basically connected with separation, right? We don't want to be humiliated. We don't want to be made fun of. We don't want to be ashamed. I guess it's more of a personal sense of ego death. Like, I mean, look, how great are egos for us anyway? So those were the 5 fears. So I guess the reason why I'm sharing that is because if you can kind of like go through your day and try to trace any negative emotion you might have back to one of those, you can kind of get in touch with the fact that, oh, you know what? Like, I'm actually perfectly healthy right now. I'm not about to get extinct. I'm really not alone, right? I'm safe from anything that wants to mutilate me right now. Hopefully, I mean, who knows what was knocking at the doorbell, but that's kind of like where I'm going with this. So that's sort of the fifth or the sixth. What was I saying? Yeah, the sixth thing is just to understand your humanness and your fears, and to combine that with the fifth thing about being totally emotionally honest and connected. And finally, the last thing that I want you to know, I've been going for a while now. The last thing that I want you, and nobody is here. This is so disappointing. I wonder if I have any. Yeah, I don't think I can see anybody. But the last thing I want to share is so important for you to survive, for you to have your best relationship, but for you to show up your best in business. And it is to stop being a martyr. Stop being a martyr. It's not helping anybody. It's not helping anybody. You know what? The couples that come in and are like, oh, what do you want to do? Oh, I'll do whatever you want to do. Like, they, each partner just cares so much about the other person. They're willing to sacrifice themselves for the other person. And that is so, I mean, it's refreshing. It's so interesting just coming from, I was doing couples therapy for a while in New York City, right? And now I'm up in more of a rural area in New Hampshire in the United States. I mean, I live in a city technically, but it ain't New York, right? And people are a lot nicer up here. Like, I guess maybe not nicer is the word, but people are less, this is I don't want to draw comparisons like this, but I guess it's like a less self-involved, less self-aware, right? So there's pros and cons. I mean, and I'm obviously drawing total generalizations here. But if you always seek to please your partner, if you're always trying to help them out, if you're always trying to do whatever they need, you're setting yourself up for failure. And the same is true in your business. Now, yes, you want to, take care of your clients and customers and but you know what? People want whatever you got, and you got to take care of yourself first, and you got to put your needs first. And this has been an interesting, I don't want to say struggle, but it's been an interesting journey for me, right? To just recognize, especially as the lines get blurrier and blurrier between real life and, I mean, there are no boundaries between real life and business, right? But I guess what I mean is, yeah, the line when you're in business for yourself, there really aren't as many lines, right? And so that means that, especially now that I have kids too, if I want to go take care of my health and all the rest, and I can't really do that with them. I mean, I could, but not right now because it's cold out and I'm thinking about like going running and stuff like that. You have to put your needs front and center. You have to recognize your priorities. You have to take care of them first. If that means that, I know that in the past I've been like, oh, okay, I'll work with you for that. If that's all you can afford, that's fine, right? This was a while back, and both in therapy, and I think in therapy it was a good thing because I was starting out and all the rest, and then, the same thing, I started doing the same thing as a coach, and it's just like, not gonna work, right? Not gonna work. So stop being such a martyr and be really connected to what you need and put it out there, because guess what? In the Abraham Hicks books, it's called Ask and It Is Given, right? You've got to stop being a martyr and, not like I was trying to be a martyr or anything like that, but, stop. You can't please everybody, right? So that's the last thing that the universe wants you to know, is that you can't please everybody. Just show up, ask for what you need. You'll get it. Trust that you're not alone. Keep the faith. Be committed, right? Recognize, but, again, though, recognize your own emotions. Recognize that they're your guidance system. Connect, if you need to, like, look, if you're struggling, there's a map of the fears that you can look at, right? And I encourage you to look at that as well. So that's what I got for my episode today, PossibiliTV Live. Thank you for joining me. If you have any thoughts, questions, feedback, comments, as always, I invite you to ask and post and share. And if you got anything from this video, let me know, because you're probably watching the replay. I also have a really amazing opportunity for folks who are interested. If you are a creative entrepreneur, it is called the Possibility Posse, and it is a posse of creative entrepreneurs, artists, healers, if you will, certainly, who want more connection, who really want to step into an even greater possibility. Connection is the sort of vehicle, and actually I'm going to be doing, well, I'll leave that alone for now, but when you can connect to all of these different areas of your life, I'll be talking more about that. And showing people how to do that. Everything else unfolds and becomes magical. So that's obviously a lot right there. It becomes magical. But let me know if you're here, if you have feedback. I always forget how to end these things. I want to thank you so much for watching, and if you made it this far, and I will catch you next time. Bye.